It's said that clinical trials are tomorrow's medicine today, and you've already kind of alluded to the importance of clinical trials as it relates to MPN. What would you say to an MPN patient who is on the fence or maybe concerned or afraid of participating in a clinical trial?
It's right to be cautious and, careful, because ultimately, it's a huge privilege as a clinician that enrolls patients in clinical trials that my patients trust me and trust my team to look after them with something that is experimental. But remember, there are varying degrees of experimental. Most clinical trials are not first in man. You're not a complete guinea pig. It may be a drug, for example, navitoclax is in clinical trials at the moment for myelofibrosis, also for ET and PV, by the way. But that is a drug that has been used for thousands of patients for another indication. So talk to your healthcare team. If you don't find the answer from the primary person that you're used to dealing with, find someone else. Be linked to somebody you trust and that you have a good relationship with. Take someone with you to the consultation, write down the questions. I'm so sure you say this all the time, don't you, Nicole, to
Yes.
people that you talk to, but write down your questions. Don't be afraid to ask them again. There is no stupid question in this context. You will be given a 30+ page booklet to read. And I lost count of the number of times my patients go, yeah, I've got this, but I trust you. Actually, no, you need to read it. We are experimenting on you, and you need to read that and understand. And you need to understand what happens if I go on the control arm. Will I be able to cross over? How many visits will I have? Will I have to pay for those visits, etc.? It's all really important. But ultimately, the relationship with your healthcare provider is important, and using an advocate is really important too.
I agree 100%. So important. These are things that I talk about all the time. So I really appreciate that you highlighted that and just the importance of patients taking an active role in their medical care, and also the trust that is required between the patient and their treating providers. So I really appreciate that. Do you have any examples, Dr. Harrison, in your own practice of successes with MPN patients who have participated in clinical trials?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think I started doing clinical trials golly, a long time ago. I think my first clinical trial with the records are written on parchment, to be honest, but we've still learned a lot from that. So that was an ET study. It was from that study we understood about the JAK2 mutation, and we understood how patients behave differently. I think probably the most gratifying thing for me was being involved in the JAK inhibitor studies in myelofibrosis, and being, involved in delivering ruxolitinib or Jakafi to patients and seeing the benefit for those patients. So big things, there are patients who are alive because they took part in that trial today, I think. But there were also patients for whom small things were also really important. So as a patient, it's important to define what is the benefit you want to get. So, one of my first patients, he hadn't been able to have a bath or a shower for years because he had terrible, what we call acrogenic pruritus, itching induced by contact with water. We called him 2 days after he started ruxolitinib, and he was in tears. He could take a bath, he could take a shower. These things are really important. I couldn't imagine not being able to do that. That
Me
would
either.
be very tough, right? For another patient, it was, well, I look really skinny because I'd lost loads of weight and I put weight on. And body image was really important as well. But then the small things like being able to participate more in family activities is really, really important too.